you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what exactly a chemical biologist does?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. I really align with your mission and what you're doing. So thank you for that. And
Thank you so much.
a little bit about what I do. So I'm originally from Peru and I got into science already a few years back. I started with my undergrad in Tennessee, doing a double degree in biochemistry and molecular biology. And at the time, I wasn't really sure what field I wanted to pursue afterwards. But I was really in love with the concept of natural products and medicine from natural products since an early age. Kind of more of a newer term that I would say really developed and took presence in the last 10 to 20 years, actually just started appearing in university as a program. Basically, it gives a space for flexible and very creative projects that combine chemistry to look at biology. So how can we study a biological system from a chemical perspective, but I think that honestly it's beyond that. I think it just allows a lot of flexibility in the field.
So, when you mention natural medicine, what exactly is that?
So, as growing up in Peru, my family actually comes from the high Andes region where they didn't really have had access to Western medicine growing up. I was lucky to grow up in the city where I had access to that. But by learning from my mom and my grandmother, they would always tell me about all these really awesome natural resources they had, and I eventually came to really be fascinated with the science of it, where I learned that plants are producing these molecules that they use as a defense mechanism a lot of these times that can also be useful for us in agriculture, etc. And then eventually came to learn that it's not just plants that do this, but it's fungi, microbes, which is what I specialize on.
That's really interesting. So, my family in India uses a natural medicine as well, and it's kind of the same thing that access to medicine is a little bit different than it is in Western countries. So, from the herbs and plants that grow around the region, they're able to develop natural remedies that are really effective too. So, really interesting that your studies had taken you to learn about that as well.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people don't realize that at least one out of three drugs that we use in the market for different diseases and conditions come from natural sources, regardless of what that may be. And the reason why I love working with bacteria especially is because with just a little bit of it, you can make a lot more of it. So having a very sustainable source of production basically without having a large negative impact on the environment.
Right, for all of that production as well. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Thank you. I'm right now in my fourth year of the PhD here at University of Michigan in chemical biology. So I should be graduating next year. And I recently started a new project with National Geographic as I got an award, an early career grant last year.
Is that the Micro Amazon project?
Yeah, so I can tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, we'd love to know about that.
As the largest portion of my PhD has focused on enzymes and molecules from a specific marine-derived bacteria. And as I come from Peru, I was like, why cannot we do that with microbes, and specifically starting with microbes from the Peruvian Amazon, because I was actually shocked when I learned that we knew little to nothing about the microbiome, or like this whole microorganism world in the Peruvian Amazon. And we are the second country with more jungle in South America after Brazil. So to me, that just shocked my mind, because if you don't understand what you have, how can you think or go about conserving it and protecting it? Anyways, I had pitched the idea to my professor, to my main mentor at University of Michigan, of like, hey, let's get this done in the Peruvian Amazon. And he had a long-standing collaboration already with other professors in Peru, so he was fully on board. And then the opportunity arose to start at this really extraordinary, unique biodiversity hotspot located in the central Peruvian Amazon. And I first learned about this through a really great TED Talk by one of my dear friends and mentors, Rosa, which I highly recommend you watching it.
Okay, yeah.
But basically, it's a very unique geothermal system. In fact, it's the largest documented thermal river in the world right now. Hottest temperature recorded being 99.1
And this
Celsius.
is the boiling river.
Yes, that is the boiling river. So a lot of people, as soon as we say, oh, it is the boiling river, the first question is it really boiling? And we're like, yes. Just imagine your hot coffee. It's between 80 to 100 Celsius in temperature, and so basically, Andres has been leading a lot of research initiatives in the area and they were looking for somebody to take charge, take lead in the microbial studies section of it. And then I came in and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to translate and create basically the first local library of microbial species from this area. We want to map the biodiversity. What do we have? Perhaps, across the sections of the rivers, we have major differences, and that can guide us into, okay, this is how it impacts the ecosystem of the river, this development, and this is how we perhaps could protect it eventually. And it can also teach us about evolution in the Amazon itself. Since there's really not much work that has been done on the Peruvian Amazon side on these contexts.
So I'm guessing this project is what took you to do all of this field work in the Amazon. Could you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be in that environment?
Yeah, so that it definitely was one of the best experiences I've had. I have been to the Peruvian Amazon many times before.
Right, because you had grown up around there?
I grew up in Lima in the city, but I was always fascinated with the Amazon rainforest. So to develop operations and learn what people were doing there in the universities, research institutes, every time I had a chance, I was trying to travel every year and a half or every 2 years with my mom, who always came to support and make sure, I don't get lost somewhere.
Oh, that's nice.
An idea of what's going on and what are the needs of scientists in the area. So anyways, this expedition
no problem.
This expedition happened last year. We were a group, a total of 41 researchers, explorers, scientists, artists that came from 7 different countries and encompassing about 23 different institutions. So my group, we were about 6 people. It was me. It was my professor from the University of Michigan, David Sherman, who's an amazing, really world-renowned expert in natural product science. We also had John Mead, who is a National Geographic educator and an expert microscopic videographer, who came to take videos of the microscopic samples we were going to be taking. We also had Felipe Wanachin, who is our local collaborator. He's a PhD candidate in Lima, who came to help us in the sample collection process, and is also going to be doing some of the scientific work for the project in Micro Amazon. We had a great photographer with us from the University of Michigan, Stephanie Keene. So that was my group, but we had anthropologists looking for fossils in the area, which was really exciting for me because I had never seen anthropologists working in the field.
Sure.
We also had biologists that were looking for new species of the praying mantises, which are extraordinarily elegant insects that I wasn't personally familiarized with.
Yeah.
We also had a group of geologists that continue working to try kind of reveal the geochemical secrets of the river. We had just a well-bred diversity of scientists there. We had about an equal ratio of girls to boys, like women to men.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
People really from all ages. I think our youngest person was a student that was 16 years old. More senior person was probably around 65 or 70.
Got it.
And I think that plus the combination of just everybody being there really brought a very unique experience and perspective for everybody.
Yeah, what an incredible experience.
Thank you. I highly recommend it. I mean, I think it's, maybe now not as before. A lot of girls may hear growing up, oh, how are you going to dare to go to this place, on your own, or with people? It's dangerous for a girl. And I think I've heard it, and possibly maybe you as well, that a lot growing up. But at the end of the day, I think it's just a matter of really trusting yourself and trusting your guts and trusting that one has the capacity to take the right decisions at the right moment.
Yeah, it's really important to show that we're totally capable of that, and if anything, worthy of at least a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not ever discourage anybody to going into an expedition in the field just by, being one sex or the other. I think, especially as a scientist, that field work really opens up a whole new dimension of why you do what you do and how you do it. It just, even me there, we spent just a little bit above a week. It just fuels you with new ideas, but mostly because you are in nature, and especially if we are studying nature, was the best place to rethink our work.
Yeah, where else, right? So speaking of, was there any dangerous situation that arose when you were doing this field work?
Yeah, no, that's a super fun question. One fun experience we had, this happened that literally after the first day we arrived. So it was very early in the morning. I woke up, I think first in a group, we were sleeping together with other girls in the same room, each in their own, bed with a mosquito net to prevent all the critters that try to like find their way in at night.
Right.
So I wake up and I'm like, oh, I want to be very quiet. I don't want to wake up anybody. I'm going to take a quick shower and then go outside. So in the restroom, the very small restroom, we actually even were lucky enough to have one.
Yeah.
Of course, the minimum, but enough to do what you need. I was getting ready to take a shower, and then all of a sudden I like turn around, and in the wall of the shower I see like a medium-sized black frog just like stuck there.
Oh, no.
And I think just the shock of it, because
Right.
I was told that that happens very often. I think they find cooling, from the sun or something. I just because like learn as you go, okay, how do the poisonous animals typically look like? Of course, you don't want to go around and touch everything, but
No, I get it. Just the shock of
yeah.
it. Mm-hmm.
But I would say in terms of more dangerous or extreme experiences, we did had an accident, unfortunately. But the good thing is that it didn't lead to major incidents and everything was fine. We were working in an area of the river that it's a little bit more, the soil is a bit more sensitive because it has undergone a lot of like earthquakes and stuff like that. So the soil has been rearranged a few times so that sometimes where you step, it's not like fully well grounded. It's not a fully well grounded area, but it feels a little bit soft. So you just have to be careful and walk with a stick, basically. Mm-hmm. You place your stick in front, and if it doesn't go inside into the boiling water, then you're safe to walk. So that kind of like a level of that you need to be careful of. And we had an accident that one of the members of the team, not my team, but the overall team, accidentally for like a very short second put his feet up to his ankles in mud that was combined with boiling water.
Oh,
that
no.
second was enough to cause him really serious burns. And at that time, we were close to like 5:30 p.m. We were already a very small group. Everybody else already had left. We had to climb 30 minutes inside to get to that area. So we had to climb back in a very, very narrow spot. That was a very, very virgin route, basically, that the local people had to help us cut through during the day to get there. So you can just imagine we are in, it's getting dark. We barely had any water left because we had not expected to stay that late.
It was definitely terrifying.
Quite terrifying, but thank goodness, we knew how to, we had a nurse in place. Every expedition that Andres organizes to the area, he brings somebody qualified. So we were able to get him the help he needed on time and all of that. But it's just a good reminder that I think the people that end up having some sort of this type of circumstances in an expedition is either the very immature or like new person in the field that it doesn't really understand the consequences, as well as the very professional people that kind of forgot the consequences as well.
Wow, that is quite the story.
Yeah, that was kind of wild, but with that, I don't want to discourage anybody because that's just very rare. And plus, the Bowling River in general is just such a precious space, and we should always treat nature with a lot of respect, I feel like, regardless of where you go.
Definitely. And on that note, who would you encourage to go into a field like this? Because that to me sounds very exciting, but there's more to being a biologist. So what do you think are the qualities that someone should possess in order to be a good biologist?
Yeah, so I would say that anybody can learn, and the most important, or one of the most important values is, a lot of people think, oh, I need to be very smart, I need to be able to memorize things, I need to have all of these things. When no, in reality, it's just how persistent and how much grit you really have. We all come into the field knowing next to zero, and we just have to be very humble and compassionate with ourselves to understand we don't always know everything, and even as we know more, we will feel we know less. To always feel very open to ask questions, because that's what takes us to the next level and makes us better. So just putting ego aside, and I think anybody that has a purpose bigger than themselves will be able to do. So I would say find something that, one, you're very interested in, and two, something the way I like to think about this is that helped me define what I wanted to do. What breaks your heart? what makes you sad. And to me, that was see nature being destroyed. It's starting with the Amazon rainforest. With that, and I know people are taking action to some extent, but to me, that wasn't enough. So then I was like, how can I use my interest to help with that? And I feel like if there's that bigger sense of purpose of why you're doing something, no matter how hard the trajectory can get, because doing a scientific career is difficult. It's definitely not easy, but it's like anything, any field can any trajectory can be difficult. But yeah.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think that's going to be really helpful to people who are trying to decide.
One suggestion I always give when people are thinking, oh, should I get into science or not? It's really cannot know until we start doing it. And even younger girls, if they write to a lab, even if they don't have any previous experience, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And if they're not, you can make your own. You can email universities or research centers in your area and ask for an opportunity. You never know. Here at the University of Michigan, there's a kid, I think he's 12 years old, that managed to get an opportunity this summer for organic synthesis, which was just amazing. And it's just a matter of trying.
Yeah, just try, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest risk in life is not risking at all. So
yeah, that's also really good advice. So on top of being a biologist, you are also an artist, an award-winning artist at that. And I was hoping you could share your experience with that, because there's this misconception that art and science are mutually exclusive, that you can't be good at both.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, first thing I'll say is a lot of people still think that there's a big disconnection between being a scientist and an artist, but I feel like there's a large amount of the population, especially nowadays as we can share our ideas more easily through the internet, that think the contrary, that they understand, hey, they're not mutually exclusive. And it's usually, you know, a matter of seeing it from not what you're doing perhaps day to day. It may seem different when I'm in the lab with my lab coat, with my goggles, and setting up experiments and mixing solutions. But at the end of the day, it requires a lot of creativity and just being able to try again until it gets better, and connecting ideas that perhaps you didn't see connected before. And I feel the same applies in art, regardless of what type of art you do. And that by doing one, it helps kind of increase that creativity and imagination process in your brain that will help to the one field or the other. So in my case, I've been doing art since I'm, very, very little. Started with literature, and then I do a lot of painting as well, but then focus mostly on dancing, which eventually I just got really deep into it. I started doing competitions. I was lucky enough that I got invited to teach in a few different countries, even got to do a tour, which was really exciting.
Wow.
Thank you. So I did receive a lot of criticism from few people, actually, because I think just some maybe more the type more antique mentality that if you are gonna be women in science, you have got to be super serious to be taken seriously, which is not true. I think you just need to be willing to work enough to know your stuff.
Yeah, just like anyone else.
Able to speak up. So, but over time, then I also get a lot of messages and comments from people saying like, "Oh, thank you for just daring to do it and not really caring about what people think." Although I, perhaps still definitely do like everybody else, but I think the more you do what really calls to you, to who you are, and people really like to support that. And I have seen more now, a lot of even my colleagues that find a way to connect what they do in science or engineering with the art that they like and try to find a way to combine them, which is kind of what you are doing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And I totally agree. So I also started art at a really young age like you, and I feel like it really helped me when I went into engineering, because it is such a creative field and people just don't really attribute creativity to that. But having already thought that way with my right brain, it felt like when I did go to engineering school, it sort of all came together and made it a little bit easier.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah. I think we should be not thinking about removing art from schools curriculums at any moment, but instead just encouraging people to intertwine them in a way, like exactly what you just said you did.
Sure, and like a productive way. Mm-hmm. Rosa, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and share all of your stories. I think this is going to be really entertaining for people who are curious about what being a chemical biologist is, and it'll really help out a lot of people who are trying to decide which field to go into too.
Thank you for the opportunity, to tell a little bit, a few more stories out there. The last thing I'll say is I'm happy to talk to people. I feel like, especially growing up, and if you don't have a scientist in your family, because I quite didn't, so you feel a bit more lost perhaps, or don't know where to start. And again, just try, talk to people. Feel free to anybody to email me. I'm happy to, help guide anybody in any way. And yeah, just follow your interests.
Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to do this. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and I think this will help a lot of young women out there, just anyone who might be considering going into the field or is curious to know about what a biologist does.
You're welcome. Thank you for this opportunity. It was